This is the Prophecy Project. Understanding the times, the nations in military conflicts, with Bible teacher and author Alan Bonk.
Welcome. This is the 15th video in a new series of prophecy videos. It is now 2022, and things are changing all around us. By that I mean the world, its plagues, and governments are going out of control. This is a study of the second book of Ezra, which is also called 4 Ezra. The videos are divided into individual chapters from the book. Some chapters will be much longer than others. Some have a lot of personal input and questions from Ezra himself. However, most of the chapters are still prophetic in nature. This chapter has military end-time campaigns that are only covered briefly or not at all in the Bible. But I found that they fit into the biblical end-time sequence of events perfectly. Essentially, they fit. I have given each chapter a simple title from something I found in that chapter. Chapter 15 is The Dragons of Arabia Battle Assyria. Now, Ezra chapter 15, verse 1. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Fear not the imaginations against thee, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. This prophecy seems to be given after the visions that Ezra had seen before, the previous ones we've been covering. They had a timeline or a sequence attached to them. 7 days, then I will return. The people actually thought that Ezra had abandoned them because it took so long for Ezra to receive those visions. He would receive a vision, then get sick and weak. Then the angel would return and do it all over again. But this prophecy has no such time attachments. It is to be spoken directly to the ears of the people and written down on paper to preserve the message. God says that many of the people won't like what it says. But Ezra is not to be troubled by them because they are going to die in their unfaithfulness. Consider the source. It is the same today. If someone dares to suggest that God will still judge sin and unfaithfulness, you'll be ridiculed and laughed at, and you'll face some anger, especially if they are convicted of their own sin. Now, verse 5. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. For wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. Therefore, saith the Lord, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit, neither will I suffer them in those things, in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and the righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. And therefore, saith the Lord, I will surely avenge them, and receive unto me all the innocent blood from among them. The blood of the innocent cries before God. The souls of the just are making complaint to God, and he says he will avenge them. The situation is the same as what we see in Revelation 6:9. I'll read it. When he, the Lamb, opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar of God, the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood upon those who dwell on the earth? Now, back to Ezra, verse 10. Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that God shall bring upon it. They that till the ground shall mourn, for their seeds shall fail through the blasting and the hail, and with a fearful constellation. The land of Egypt has never been destroyed as indicated in this prophecy. However, the destruction of Egypt, the judgment of Egypt, is prophesied in several other prophets and prophecies in the Jewish Old Testament. Ezekiel 29, 9 through 12 is one such area, and I'll read it. Verse 9. And the land of Egypt shall become desolate and waste. Then shall they know that I am the Lord, because he said, The river is mine, I have made it. Indeed, therefore, I am against you and against your rivers, and will make the land of Egypt utterly waste and desolate, from Migdol to Syene, as far as the border of Ethiopia. Neither foot of man shall pass through it, nor foot of beast pass through it, and it shall be uninhabited 40 years. I will make the land of Egypt desolate in the midst of the countries that are desolate, and among the cities that are laid waste. Her cities shall be desolate 40 years. Back to Ezra, verse 14. Woe to the world, and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And the people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. The course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able. For because of their pride the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity on his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods, because the lack of bread, and for great tribulation. Civil unrest always happens when the people feel they are being mistreated or treated unfairly. It always happens when there is not enough food and other resources to go around. Man's selfish nature comes to the forefront. They feel if they don't exercise their strength, assert themselves, they will be left out. Neighbor against neighbor. And it'll only get worse when they realize that things are not going to get better. Cities are where the majority of the people are living. And when things go wrong, the people are reduced to a tribal mentality, and chaos will soon override the old values, the concepts and values of right and wrong. Let's go to verse 20, Ezra. Behold, saith God, I will call together all the kings of the earth to reverence me, which are from the rising of the sun, from the south, and from the east, and from Libus, to turn themselves one against another, and repay the things that they have done to them, like as they do yet this day unto my chosen. So will I do also. and recompense in their bosom. Thus saith the Lord God, my right hand shall not spare the sinners, and my sword shall not cease over them that shed innocent blood upon the earth. The fire is gone forth from his wrath, and hath consumed the foundations of the earth, and the sinners like the straw that is kindled. Woe to them that sin, and keep not my commandments, saith the Lord. I will not spare them. Go your way, ye children, from the power. Defile not my sanctuary. God reaches out to the nations, to their leaders, to see if they will humble themselves before him. This is seen as, will they reverence me? They do not change. God determines to recompense their sins into their bosoms. The means is to give them back the things they are doing to others. Recompense, especially the blood. God's wrath is going to go forth as fire to consume the foundations of the nations. The world system will be consumed. Now, back to Ezra 26. For the Lord knoweth all them that sin against him, and therefore delivereth he them unto death and destruction. For now are the plagues come upon the whole earth, and ye shall remain in them. For God shall not deliver you, because ye have sinned against him. Behold, an horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Also the Carmenians, raging in wrath, shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come, and join battle with them, and waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. Then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature. And if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them, the Assyrians, then these shall be troubled, bleed, and keep silence through their power, and shall flee. And from the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them, and consume some of them, and in their hosts shall be fear and dread and strife among their kings. Verse 28 starts a horrible vision. The dragons of Arabia, the Arab nations, shall join with the Carmenians, this is a part of southern Persia, to attack the land of Assyria, the land we know today as Iraq. They destroy or control some of Assyria, a portion of it. They don't follow through to the finishing of the job. It says that knowing their nature, they wanted to persecute the Assyrians. However, they, the Arabs, had to flee from the Assyrians. The Assyrians besieged them and consumed some of the Arab alliance, and they fled in fear and dread, it says. I don't think that this military campaign is seen in the Old Testament prophets. However, it is inferred in Daniel 11:41. I'll read it. The king of the north, Assyria, shall enter the glorious land, the Levant. This includes Arabia. And many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of the hand. Edom, Moab, and the prominent people of Ammon. Now, that's the campaign and the illusion. The next set of verses will speak of the battles and campaigns. They have a carnal consequence, but also spiritual aspects and damage. The references to stars will be referring to angels and angelic powers. These battles are fought at a high spiritual level, much like the battle of Michael, the archangel, and Satan's angels, as we see in Revelation chapter 12. You can read that yourself. Now, back to Ezra, verse 34. Behold, clouds spirits and winds, from the east and from the north unto the south, and they shall be very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm. They shall smite upon another, and they shall smite down a great multitude of stars, angels, upon the earth, even their own star or angel, and the blood shall be from the sword unto the belly, and dung of men unto a camel's hole. Mankind always suffers the worst when the powers of the world decide to fight. People will be slaughtered in massive numbers. But we see that a multitude of angels, fallen angels, will be smitten. We don't really know what that means, since angels don't die. They're immortal. Now, back to Ezra, verse 37. And there shall be a great fearfulness and trembling upon the earth, and they that see the wrath shall be afraid, and trembling shall come upon them. And then there shall come great storms from the south and from the north, and another part from the west. And strong winds shall rise from the east, and shall open it. And the cloud which he raised up in wrath, and the star stirred to cause fear towards the east and west wind, shall be destroyed. The great and mighty cloud shall be puffed up, full of wrath, and the star, the angel, that they may make all the earth afraid, and them that dwell therein, and they that shall pour out upon every high and eminent place a horrible star or angel, fire and hail, flying swords, many waters, all fields may be full, and all rivers with the abundance of great waters. I think that the storms, the clouds and the stars and the winds, are parabolic in meaning. This would mean that the great waters would indicate great numbers of people. Fields would represent nations and countries. This symbolism is also seen in Revelation 17:1 and 19:6. I'll read them. Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters. Then he said unto me, the waters which thou saw where the harlot sit are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. Then in 19:6, and I heard, as it were, the voice of a great multitude, as the sound of many waters, and the sound of mighty thunderings. Back to Ezra, verse 42. And they shall break down the cities and walls, mountains and hills and trees of woods, and grass of the meadow, and their corn. And they shall go steadfastly into Babylon, and make her afraid. They shall come to her and besiege her, the star, the angel, and all wrath shall they pour out upon her. Then shall the dust and the smoke go up unto heaven, and they that be about her shall bewail her. This spiritual attack on Babylon, with all its armies of men and flying swords, is seen in Isaiah 13, Jeremiah 51, Jeremiah 50, Revelation 18. In each of these accounts of the demise and the fall of Babylon, it can be shown that the historic nation of Babylon is not the Babylon referred to in the prophecies. The prophecies in the book of Revelation were written 200 years after historic Babylon was a ruin, just out in the desert, a pile of rubble. It was not destroyed as God wrote. Revelation 18:17 through 19. I'll read it. Every shipmaster and all who traveled by ship, sailors, and as many as trade by the sea, stood at a distance, and cried out when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What is like unto this city, Babylon? They threw dust upon their heads and cried out, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city in which all who had ships on the sea became rich by her wealth, for in 1 hour she is made desolate. Back to Ezra, verse 45. And they that remain under her shall do service unto them that have put her in fear. And thou, Asia, thou art partaker of the hope of Babylon, and art the glory of her person. Woe be unto thee, thou wretch, because thou hast made thyself like unto her, and hast decked thy daughters in whoredom, that they might please and glory in thy lovers, which have always desired to commit whoredom with thee. Thou hast followed her, that is hated, in all her works and inventions. Therefore, saith God, I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, to waste thy houses with destruction and death. And the glory of the power shall be dried up as a flower. The heat shall rise that is sent over thee. Thou shalt be weakened as a poor woman with stripes, and as one chastised with wounds, so that the mighty and lovers shall not be able to receive thee. Babylon is destroyed in verses 44 and 45. The smoke goes up to heaven. But in verse 6, the subject changes. It makes reference to Asia. Now, in the Bible, all the references to Asia is the area of modern-day Turkey. There are references in the Old Testament to locations north of Turkey, such as Ashkenaz, Gomer, Magog, which we would consider today to be part of Greater Asia. I don't believe that the direct references to Asia in these scriptures or in Scripture apply to these lands, but really just Turkey. Asia is accursed by modeling herself into a copy of Babylon. Partaker of the hope of Babylon, art the glory of her person. Thou hast made thyself like unto her, hast decked thy daughters in whoredoms. I should note that the great end-time Babylon of Revelation 17:1 is called the great whore, that sits upon many waters, the peoples. I'll read it. Verse 1. Come, I will show you the judgment of the great whore who sits upon many waters. She is decked in gold and precious stones. The whoredoms of Babylon are adopted by Asia or Turkey. Even her daughters are decked in whoredoms. One of the reasons the great whore is judged is because she spreads her sins to the nations of the kings of the world. In verse 15, the waters which thou saw, where the whore sits, are peoples, tribes, multitudes, nations, and tongues. Now, back to Ezra, verse 52. Would I with jealousy have so long proceeded against thee, saith the Lord, if thou hadst not always slain my chosen, exalted the stroke of thine hands, and saying over their dead when thou wast drunken. Set forth the beauty of thy countenance, the reward of thy whoredom shall be in thy bosom. Therefore shalt thou receive recompense, like as thou hast done unto my chosen, saith the Lord. Even so shall God do unto thee, and shall deliver thee into mischief. Thy children shall die of hunger, and thou shalt fall through the sword. Thy cities shall be broken down, and all thine shall perish with the sword in the field. They that be in the mountains shall die of hunger, and eat their own flesh, and drink their own blood, for very hunger of bread and thirst of water. Thou, as unhappy, shall come through the sea and receive plagues again. And in the passage they shall rush on the idol city. They shall destroy some portion of thy land, and consume part of thy glory, and shall return to Babylon, which was destroyed. And thou shalt be cast down by them as stubble, and they shall be unto thee as fire, and shall consume thee, and thy cities, thy land, thy mountains, and all thy woods, the fruitful trees shall they burn up with fire. Thy children shall they carry away captive. And look what thou hast. They shall spoil it, and shall mar the beauty of thy face. Verse 53 tells us, Asia, or Turkey, if thou had not always slain my chosen. When did Turkey kill God's chosen people? In my studies of the land and nation of Assyria, I found that at the time of Jesus, the Assyrian king, King Abgar, converted Christianity, 1st century. He led his people to do the same. Nearly everyone in Assyria converted. Even today, 90+% of the ethnic Assyrians in the world are Christians. They moved away from the old Assyrian god of Ashur. Because they are Christians, they fought alongside Great Britain during World War I. They had at that time been promised by the English that they would receive control of their homeland back after the war. Their lands had been taken by the Muslims, the Turks and the Kurds. When the Turks saw that their empire, their caliphate, was going to be lost, they turned against the Assyrian people in Assyria. This is history. Whom they oppressed for hundreds of years. They attempted to kill the whole Assyrian nation. Genocide. They fell short. There is no doubt in my mind that this event, plus the oppression of the Jews in the Levant, would constitute the wholesale slaughter of God's chosen. Now, even today, Turkey refuses to take any responsibility for the deaths. They still stand over the dead and mock. God does not forget. The coming judgment of Turkey is called a recompense. Verse 55, the reward of thy whoredom shall be in thy bosom. Therefore thou shalt receive recompense. Even so shall God do unto thee, and shall deliver thee into mischief. The demise of Turkey includes military attacks from other nations. Famine will come upon the children. The people of the mountains, the Caucasus Mountains, will die of hunger. It also says that they will be unhappy because of the plagues. And then, like waves of the sea, they will receive plagues again and again. Verse 59 says that, thou as unhappy shall come through the sea and receive plagues again. And finally, the children that survive and did not die of hunger will be carried away captive. This is what they had done to others in the past. This is a recompense. God does not forget. Verse 63, thy children shall they carry away captive, slaves. Now, this is the end of chapter 15. You can go to the next video in the series to continue to chapter 16 or to any other chapter you wish to view. Thank you for watching.
This was only one session of many. Be sure to continue watching the Prophecy Project series. If you would like to read more information on this subject, you can find Alan's books on Amazon.com.